It's now 6:33. We're going to open the meeting. Let me just make a record of this. Posted in accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20B. The proceedings will be videotaped and rebroadcast by Area 58. Thank you very much. Tonight we have discussion and possible votes, but our first thing on the agenda is discussion on the North Carver Water District with Tom Bott, Glenn Cannon, and Robert Belbin. Well, Tom Bott is out sick. However, Glenn Cannon's with us tonight. Thank you, sir. And Bob Belbin is here tonight. Thank you. What we're here, obviously we want to hear from you, but I want you to be able to speak on your own to us, uninterrupted. So, and we'll just reserve our questions for later, after you speak, and the same for you too. So he'll go first. We'll ask Glenn to go first. And let me just open this a little further for you, and Bob too. I had written several letters, but more importantly, I had written to you, Glenn, and I asked you some questions, right? But after time went on, I went and I looked at the joint meeting we had, the RDA and the BOS, and I sent all of you to, if you had time to look at that. It's about 4 hours long, but you could clip and see certain things. It's very obvious from that meeting and adoption that the select board was on board. And Mr. Malinsky gave a very open talk about why, the cost, and the risk. Did you watch all that?
I didn't watch the whole thing.
Did you watch him?
No, you aren't, because you didn't identify him.
Oh, no.
You gave me times to look at for the votes, so I focused in on the votes.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, he was very, you could go back.
Yeah.
You have to go back.
Okay.
I did make some notes. You might want to take this down.
Yeah, if you had the times.
Well, yeah, 45.
Let's say, yeah, go ahead.
Will St. Clair, he used to be the chairman.
Yeah.
You go to 4501.
Yeah, you had mentioned that one.
That's the start. Right after that, on 4543, the town administrator, Mike Malinsky, talks.
Oh, I just missed it then.
And he talks to 10203. And then George McLaughlin comes on at 10542. Sarah, in the interim of when George McLaughlin is talking, Sarah at 20410 to 22755. Now, what they're doing is they're giving personal talking from the select board back to George McLaughlin, questions. And so she has things and questions. A lot of it was housing. But she also had a concern about who was going to pay for the plan if it went belly up. Did you watch that? Did you watch any of this?
I did not have a chance. No,
Okay.
I was there, but I don't really remember.
Alan Dunham, who used to be the select person, he starts at 22755. And he goes to 23444. Now, important for that, because he's making an amendment to the plan. He's making an amendment, and it's not so that the amendment that he's making, so that if they go belly up, they had the word local as far as a grant to try to secure money to keep the project going. So he wanted this amendment to be modified. So they took the word local out, but it said that it would be all of Route 44, it would be all of them, and it was up to them if they're going to secure added financing, it would be either state, federal grant, and because they had local in there also. So that amendment took them out, so that the select board and the town, more importantly, wouldn't be responsible. Now, Sarah, in her speech, when she was talking, she had the same concerns. And she had it on page 56. Now, that is a draft that they were using the actual plan copy that you have and I have, and I think you also took a copy of that, you made a copy of that. I don't think it's actually fair, I didn't go back and check, but the modification and taking that word local out is page 56, page 57, page 67, and page 6, appendix 5.
And when you say local, I'm sorry, so when you say local, you mean the funding for the North Carver Water District originally?
If the, no, if the plan went belly up, this particular, I didn't look at this area here, I should have, in detail, but there was, who was going to pay for it to try to keep it going? So if the project wasn't going down the right path to be successful,
Yeah.
and there's, money had to come, they had.
We're there now.
Huh?
We're there now.
What do you
Because
mean?
the town subsidizes the North Carver Water District.
No, they're talking about the project, this whole entire project, not.
Or like if they ran out of money while they were building it. No,
Yeah.
it's already built. I'm confused.
There's not the water, forget that. The urban renewal plan is called the quote-unquote project.
Oh, okay,
And
okay,
that's what they're talking about.
okay,
That's the whole entire project,
okay,
from start to stop.
okay,
There are pieces that come in, yes, the North Carver Water District is a piece,
okay,
but they're talking about this whole entire project.
okay.
And so Sarah was initially also concerned about that. But when Alan Dunham came to speak, he had already written up his bylaw change or his law change that he wanted. So if you could have done that. But let me begin by this, and to be honest with you, Sarah Hewins called me. She's concerned. And I said to her, okay, let me write you a letter back. And I said I was having a meeting tonight, and Glenn has offered to come. Bob Belvin will be here, and we're going to be discussing the North Carver Water District. So I wrote to Sarah, and this is what I said. I've attached the letter I wrote to Finance Director and Bob Belvin requesting the DOR audit of the North Carver Water District from current to 2014. I grabbed the DOR audit 2014 from my last meeting packet and have attached for you to read. Am I concerned? You bet I am, because since 2014, there is a circle of blame to be known and why it was given over to Middleborough. When Bob Belvin took over, and you should watch his first video as chair showing the videos and pictures he took of the plant. Discuss? Yes. And the committee before him paid Small Water Systems $6,000 every month to do what? I hope the company is bonded because they deserve to pay back that monies they took each month. Just an FYI, Glenn talks about the town has their own engineers. Well, he needs to know those engineers are the same people and company that didn't close down the North Carver Water District plant correctly. The potential that those membranes are ruined and the replacement is thousands of dollars, which will take months to receive the replacement membranes. Bob has 2 RFPs out, one for distribution operator supervisor, and another to evaluate the plant, provide options, fix emergency repairs, to prepare to recommission, and recommend water tower placement. Glenn should also know that Bob received a letter from DEP stating that Route 44 LLC will not be allowed to hook up to water if Middleborough is supplying water. You and the select board should know all what I'm saying and more. That is why I have invited Glenn, Tom Bott, and Bob Belvin to my tomorrow RDA meeting. At our meeting, we, Tom, Bob, and all of us members of the RDA need to hear from Glenn as to why he has chosen this route. Based on what you now have learned from me, Route 44 LLC has 2 potential clients who want to buy each property, not rent. One plans to build a 150,000 square foot building, and they are in the industrial business. the other plans to build a 450,000 square foot building, and they're in the agricultural business. In addition, there would be personal property tax and excise tax to be had. You know how business is conducted, and they won't sign without the assurance of water. George is also prepared to put up a 1.4 million water tower on the Cole property where the plant is. Of course, he's talking subsidy of a Fed grant, along with speaking with the town about a pilot agreement. That's, you know what that is, payment in lieu of tax. And that was and I say to her, thanks for being interested. So you're here to tell us the route that you want to take. Namely, you have put in, I believe, an article for the warrant, on the warrant for town meeting in April to dissolve the North Carver Water District. And you also had said that you were going to try to do a long-term negotiation with Middleborough contract. You also mentioned that you thought you could do it a lot, your people that work with you here in the town could do it a lot easier, get things done faster. You did mention that engineer, and I am right on that part.
Can I talk to you about that? Just because you.
I don't know where you want to start,
Well,
but
I would disagree with that part of the letter. So the people who were in charge of the North Carver Water District were small water systems. The town hires an engineering firm called Fuss and O'Neill. As far as I know, they're not associated at all. In fact, I'm not even sure Small Water Systems is actually an engineering firm. They're a firm that
he could answer that.
takes care of water systems. They're not, probably, as far as I know, not an engineering firm. So there are two completely separate entities. So that's the one thing I'd say about the letter. As far as, putting in an article, so I have told the select board I put a placeholder in for an article. The warrant is not set, so that still has to be determined. But yes, I believe the town should bring forward an article to dissolve the North Carver water system. I believe that the town can do a better job of managing the overall system. I'll tell you right now, and I told this in front of the select board, I'm concerned about the sustainability of the North Carver Water District and how the commissioners work right now. They're putting in multiple hours of their own time to keep the thing running. I think we're better off having, again, professional staff, a facilities manager who hires a firm who run it for us. Right now, the town of Middleborough is running it for us. They're doing a much better job than we ever did as a town. I can tell you right now, I see the emails, I think Bob would attest to that. They're making changes out there that need to be done 20 years ago. So I feel we are better off at doing that. I know I went to one of Bob's meetings, and I wish I wrote down the woman's name. She kind of asked who's to blame for what has happened at the North Carver Water District, right? Let's just talk about Dan Ryan. He just said to me, we put a lot of money into the North Carver Water District, right? Where are we today? Well, that woman asked, who's responsible for the North Carver Water District? And, there's no one person to kind of point to and say who's in charge of it, right? Well, if the town takes it over, there is somebody to point to, right? You can point right to the town administrator, right? That's the person who's in charge of it. If it's not me, it's the person who works for me. There has to be somebody who is responsible for what has happened out there. So I think you want that. The North Carver Water District, they have open meetings. I think we're probably better off with it being the select board, who are the water commissioners. And again, they tell me what to do, right? So if there are complaints from the residents, you complain to the select board, they tell me what's going on out there. I have to take corrective action. I think it's a better process. I think we're better off working with the town of Middleborough, as town to town, as opposed to having a separate entity, which is the North Carver Water District. And Bob can attest to this too. I know he's trying. He is a separate district. He wants to be a separate district. I would say we've been a quasi-town department for the past 20 years, with the town doing a lot of the work, the North Carver Water District doing some of the work. Bob's trying to take it all on. It's quite a lot, and I think it's difficult for them to do. So that's what I feel is what's moving and where we should move in that direction.
Now it's your turn.
All right, so we put out one RFP for a distribution operator and supervisor, and the intent is to deal with the DEP issues that we have, and to come in compliance with them. Now, since Middleborough is giving us water, we still need to do our side of it, complying with DEP regulations. The supervisory aspect is that this person will help us to become a better district by having someone professional who knows the water industry that'll go ahead and be our eyes and ears of the plant. The other RFP was supposed to be sent and wasn't sent, and that's my fault. I just talked to the attorney. I had sent it to him, and then the changes that were made didn't get made. So, and that's my fault, and I will do that tomorrow morning, so that one can get out too. That other one is for inspection, evaluation, emergency repairs of it, of all of these companies that will come in and do this. They'll pretty much start the plant up, find out what's wrong with it, give us a whole assessment of the plant, not just what needs to be done now, but what should have been done before. So that accountability can be held if things were not done or were negligently left by the prior company. So that we can go ahead and hopefully have discussions with the company, and because we don't have anything for almost a year documented that they were there, and the only thing I was told was they were there once a week just to flush the system. And I mean, we're still paying, like you said, was paying the money for it. So, but that's the past right now, and now we're trying to catch up. Some of the issues we have, and Glenn's right, I mean, I'm not a water guy, and I'm learning a whole lot though, being here. The issues that, to run a system like this, you need someone expert to do it. And I understand Glenn's position on this. I disagree. I think if the North Carver Water District was created to be a separate entity, it should continue to be a separate entity, but it needs to have professional staff on board. When it first started, we had a town employee that was running the plant, and that was okay for a few years, and then that didn't work out, and we had to hire another company in to go do it. And you need somebody that's overseeing it.
These two guys you're talking about hiring, are they consultants, or are they actually going to be employees?
Not employees, these are contracted, they're
So
all
they're consultants,
contract.
basically.
So they'll be consultants to some extent. Right now, it's for a 2-year contract, all right, to cover us, so they can watch what the people are doing to evaluate the system, all right, and he can turn around and say, yeah, this is right, this is wrong. And also, the filing system is horrendous, because we have poor filing system, poor computer system in it. We have to move into the future of the water industry. And we just need help with that. So that's gonna cost money to do, but if we went with the town, they're gonna be doing the same thing. All right, so the town, yeah, they have secretaries and other employees to do it. Fuss and O'Neill are okay, but I mean, that's an engineering firm. I don't think we really need an engineering firm. We were even told that you don't need to have an engineer come in there. Do what we're doing now is to find out what's wrong with it. It needs to be repaired. With the urban renewal plan, which you guys are concerned of, we have to provide water, in my opinion. The urban renewal plan says we're supposed to provide water to that plant, that area. Water lines are there. We got a grant for $3 million+ and the developer puts money into it too. The language in the URP is concerning to some extent to me, because it says if water's available. Well, what does if available means? I mean, I have my definition of what available means. The courts may find another definition. When you talk to someone, what does it mean? I think we have a water plant that can provide good, clean water. Before it was shut down, when I took over, I had nobody to take over for it. The prior people that were in it, they should have started the RP process to get somebody in there. They had 30 days to do it, and they didn't do anything, which puts us in this position we're at now. So We did have discussions with Middleborough, and that they're not interested in providing water to the urban renewal area.
Yeah, well, it
All
says
right.
it from your...
DEP sent me an email, because I had sent them also, and they turned around, and the email I got said that Middleborough cannot provide water to the urban renewal plan. So we have to make a huge decision that, do we provide water to the whole North Carver Water District as we see it now?
Yeah,
Have the system running and go back to the way it used to be run, but have a professional company in there, having a supervisor to oversee them, what's going on and how they're being done. All right, so we not only have the eyes and ears of the company saying this is what's going on, we have our person here that says, okay, fine, yeah, I agree with them, I took a look at this or whatever, yeah. And that would be a part-time position too. The supervisor's not a full-time, it's a part-time position. Like I said, at the front end, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work for them, but within probably 3-6 months, it's gonna be a little less. But we need to do that. I think that's the way we have to go with the district for it.
What do you think the advantage is of hiring this outside people versus having town employees do it?
Because right now, we're a separate entity, okay? That's the issue that we had with this before, is the North Carver Water District wasn't run as a separate entity. All right, the town did this, the town did that, town did this, town did that, and the North Carver Water District would do this, and the problem is that when you have the town doing stuff for us, the North Carver Water District has no power to turn around and tell the town employees they're doing something wrong. All right, it's a control factor, is that we're in charge of it, we be in control and say, okay, here, this is what's going on, this is what needs to be held. We need communication. Right now, I mean, a perfect example is that I wanted to hire a landscape company to come in and do the landscaping work that needed to be done, the mowing of the grass, the taking the trees out of the drainage area, because that's not supposed to be like that. It was all grown up, 10, 15 feet high trees were in there. That was wrong, all right? And all I ask is just let me know before you go in there and do the work. Because I talked to conservation beforehand, said it's conservation land. I need to notify them when it's being done, and I want to take pictures of what it looked like before, which I already did, the work that they're doing, and I can submit it to them and say, here you go, you guys got an issue, this is what's going on, I got the pictures here to prove what we did and the work that the town did for us. Well, I was never notified, and it's communication, and communication is lacking between the town and the North Carver Water District. Trying to fix it, all right, because there's some things that the town has to do for us, i.e. the finance end of it. In the memorandum of agreement that we have with the town does all the billing for us. That's an agreement we have with the town, they're gonna do all that. But we don't have a memorandum of agreement for anything else that's done for the town. And that's what we need. These are things that we have to document, that the town will do this for us, but we also have to know what the finances are. How much is the town doing as services for the North Carver Water? If O&M are doing $20,000 worth of work a year for the North Carver Water District, we need to account for that $20,000, all right? Just to say, this is what it costs us to do. To run this plant, to run the North Carver Water District, all right, there's $20,000 that the town covers for us, for that. The finance end, we should also know how much that all costs, all right? Because that all has to get molded into our bills. When we put out a bill out there, our bill should cover all of this, all right? And if the water bill is 27 cents a thousand or whatever it is, all right? We have to know that 27 cents is gonna turn around and pay all of our bills. If it doesn't, then we have a problem. And we've had that problem for years because we have 100 and something people that are, 130 something people that are on the system. They can't cover a $500,000 debt that we
How
have.
does the town handle it now for the rest of it? Everything that's not in the North Carver Water District, how's the rest of it handled?
So the town,
You have to forgive me, I haven't lived here that long, so I'm
Dude,
gonna ask the
that's-
question.
yeah,
so.
you go for it.
So the town has 3 existing water systems, right? The middle high school, the elementary school, town hall, and the senior living is also tied into the system. Now, they're a smaller scale than the North Carver Water District, but we handle it through town staff, and then we have a consultant who comes in and helps us with it. I would say to you that those three systems don't have the problems that the North Carver Water District has, because again, we have professional staff who knew how to run this. And I've only been here a short time also, I do know that there was a water line break between here and the senior center, and and our staff goes out and they fix it, and they repair it as quickly as possible. And I would say also, less expensive than hiring a contractor or a consultant. If it's town staff, the reason why you have town staff is because you save money having them, so I think that, again, town staff does manage three of these systems at a smaller scale than the North Carver Water District, but I don't think you see the same problems there as you've seen in the North Carver Water District. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so basically, if there's a problem, the guys from the DPW go out and fix a water main break.
Correct.
And then under your system, how would that happen?
Middleborough,
The town of Middleborough comes out and does it.
we're getting water from them right now, and they've always.
Well, I'm saying if
taken care of-
we start
Going
supplying it,
going
how would
forward.
you do it?
How would you do
All right.
it?
How would you, if you have a consultant from the,
We would-
correct me if, hang on a second,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong. So you're gonna go out and hire this guy to run the North Carver Water District. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's a water main break somewhere. Who's gonna come out and fix it?
So what they've done in the past is Middleborough would be our emergency contact people. Even when the system was running for us, we would call them in to do the work on ours because they have all the machinery and equipment to do that.
But why do we wanna rely on another town to do it if we have the resources ourselves?
But we don't have the resources.
Well, I think we have do we not have kind of a plan in place to deal with it? We're just talking about adding staff, if what I'm somewhat understanding here.
Right now, the plan would be consultants, to manage.
Well, I'm saying though, if you had a whole other water district, if you got 5 guys working for the DPW now, you can't have 5 guys working for the DPW after the fact that you're gonna add a whole other water district in there. So you'd have to add somebody that's some staff personnel, wouldn't you?
We'd have to look at it, because, again, I have to see what we could do between the consultants. Right now, I believe for the past 20 years, I think if there was a water line break at the North Carver Water District, Carver Town DPW staff would respond to it.
Okay.
Not the town of Middleborough. That's recent. And I know they've been online before. I can't remember, what was it, 3 years ago? They came on and supplied water to Carver also, then North Carver Water District came back online, and now it's offline again. But I believe it's always been the town of Carver who comes out and fixes it. Again, it's always been this quasi-town department, that's what it comes down to, without the town being in charge. And I kind of see it the opposite of Bob, right? Bob thinks that the town shouldn't be in charge, but I see us being the ones doing the work, and if we were in charge, we'd be able to do all the work and be able to answer to the residents who have problems. Again, it kind of gets back to it. Even if you're a resident, right, you have a complaint, right? If the town of Carver are in charge of it, come to the town hall and talk to us about it, right? There's a person, you sit down at a desk and you can tell them what the complaint is. At the North Carver Water District, they don't have an office. They just don't. They rely on town staff to post their agendas. I'm posting the RFP for the North Carver Water District right now. I just reviewed and I'll tell you right now, it's at 30,000 feet, because it's not our district, right? It's not us. I just reviewed the RFP for Bob. I gave him some suggestions on it. We gave him suggestions on the last RFP. We try to help him as much as possible, because even though, and I understand Bob, it is a separate district, there's no doubt about it. In the law, it's a separate district. But they are town of Carver residents. I feel obligated to be able to assist them as much as possible. And I think we're better off assisting them if they're part of the town of Carver, and that it is a department of the town of Carver. That's.
Joanne?
Go ahead.
He's on the phone.
Oh, Roger. Go
I have a
ahead.
list of questions. Let Roger go first.
Okay, Roger, go ahead. Roger's on the phone, and you can direct
Okay,
your
so-
calls. Hello?
Yeah, hi, yeah, so, Bob, and I forget who the other person is that's debating with Bob. Is that the town manager?
Town manager's Glenn Cannon.
Oh, hi, Glenn. I'm sorry this is the way I meet you. But I kind of, when I'm listening to what's going on, it sounds like a good opportunity that we do have a consultant to bring us in and handhold us until the agency is stable enough, or the utility is stable enough as a working service, and then hand off to like an employee that could come in and manage and work it. So it seems like it should be like a two-stage. Whenever we've implemented something like this in some of the companies I've worked with, you have that consultant or agency that's going to handhold the town, walk it in, get the service up and running, and then, at some point their service ends and the utility or the town itself takes over and manages it, and then it can always refer back to a consultant firm that helps establish it. So I think it sounds like it should be a two-step project to begin with. I think it's a larger scope than just a one-meeting thing. That it sounds like we need to have the consultants come in, help set up the framework, review everything that's going on, all Bob's wish list, and then present a working detail of what's it going to take to maintain this utility moving forward, and use the consultants that come in to say, you're going to need an on-staff of one or two. You're going to need to keep us going with you for about a year or so until you're on board, and then maybe one employee. I think it's the best of both worlds. Seems like the best option at this time. Thoughts?
Are you directing it to Glenn?
I've kind of looked at it as an open forum. I mean, from what Bob has already been doing,
Okay.
because it's not, as Bob's been doing, as well as Glenn asking, the bottom line, what's it going to cost the town? What's it going to work with? But I think the plan needs to have a bit of both right now.
Okay, Glenn.
Okay.
Let Glenn answer, and we'll have Bob answer as well. Go ahead, Glenn.
Because Roger, I agree with you, and again, I think that that's a position the town might be in. So again, we handle 3 water systems right now. If we were handling the North Carver water system with a consultant, and again, we have consultants at these 3, you may be at the point, Roger, and I agree, where a town staff member gives you a better option financially. And again, and somebody who answers to you directly. I think Roger, if that were a town department and you had those, so we're managing all 4 in one larger, probably larger than all 3 together, it might be financially better off. You'd be better off with a town employee, which I'll take all day long, because when you really do have an emergency and the consultant has a client who pays them more money, or maybe they show up and help you and maybe they don't. But if I have a town employee who works for me, he shows up when I need him. And I always like Bob's saying, you always want to have that control. So Roger, I agree. I think we'd probably be at that point where once we get it up and running, we want to do that financial analysis and see if we'd be better off hiring an employee versus hiring the consultant.
Right, but at this point, like what Bob is saying, as we're still putting it together, we're still at that stage where we need consultants, and employees at the time, right now, a town employee wouldn't make sense yet. But I mean, we have to prepare a budget for it. I think, is that the steps we're at right now? We're still looking on how to fund?
Bob?
So, let me kind of go a little bit back to that view. The RFP that I put out for, that we will be putting out for the evaluation, one of that will be to let us know how much it will cost us to run the system when it's up and running. So the company that comes in that does the emergency repairs that we need done there, they're gonna have the expertise to know how much it will cost. So we'll know, once this is all done, how much it's gonna cost us per year to do this. Also, the way the budget I did this year, I tried to include everything as open and transparent as possible for it, of how we're gonna spend the money that we do get from the town, because we're not getting enough money in from the residents. There's a lot of people that are just paying the minimum amount, and that was part of another communication error that residents were told, well, just pay the minimum. If you have an issue with your bill, just pay the minimum amount, and that's not the right way. You pay your full bill, which that's what they've been told now. You pay your full bill, you got an issue with it, you pay your bill and then forward it off to us, and we'll go ahead and have a meeting and discuss it in our open meeting to abate the bill or make a payment plan or do something like that. We just did that this last meeting or meeting before we had, where there was a bill of $40,000. It was absurd. And I would never tell someone to pay a $40,000 bill for water, and they've only lived in there for a short period of time. So bills that are over $10,000, McDonald's was another one. They were delinquent on their bills. If people are delinquent on their bills, we have to go in and tell them, hey, either you pay your bill and come to us for an abatement, or we're gonna put a lien on your property, and that's, I don't wanna do that. It costs us more money to do that, and I don't want to. So,
Right.
The system that I hope that will happen is, once we find out how much it's gonna cost to do all the final repairs on it, and to get it up and running, and then decide when we actually start the plant up and who's gonna be included in that. And I actually told Glenn this, and I had put this out there before, is we may want to split the system where Plymouth Street and Route 58 is. We just put we stop the water right there. So the commercial North Carver Water District will cover from the north side of that, where you have the gas station and McDonald's right now, and you get two other lots before the light.
Shaw's
All
on
the way
it?
up to Plymouth.
Shaw's? Shaw's is on there too?
Oh, yeah, all the way up to Plymouth, all the way up to Plymouth
Oh,
on
okay.
58.
Tractor Supply up
Where
there.
Tractor Supply is. The issues that we will have with that is, again, financing of it. You
don't have enough
You're not gonna have enough money to run the North Carver Water District as a whole, just that small area. But we could also, Middleborough will be supplying water to the residents and the other businesses on the other side of that. But if the urban renewal plan becomes a total build-out there, we could be self-sufficient, depending on how much water needs they need there. The other side of this is Plimpton, is that if Plimpton has any development in that other area that abuts Carver, we have the extra water availability that we could sell to them.
What about Heather's Path?
What?
Heather's Path, they were complaining today.
Yeah,
Well, you're moving dirt
are
around.
they gonna wanna get on Carver water? Who knows?
They could buy the water, they don't have to worry about their wells being contaminated with PFAS.
Well, that's true too, but I mean, that could be a stopgap to do it before it does happen, but we want to hope that we don't contaminate the soil at all that's already there. So we have to look at the future to some extent, but I don't want to be the person that stands up there and says, I got checks in here to do this. I'm making sure people's eyes are open, because right now, we don't have it. We have the developer saying he's got two businesses that want to purchase property. And the only way they're gonna purchase property is if they can supply water.
That's true. Yeah.
That's it.
That's-
And if we don't supply water to him, okay, we have to understand that other ramifications can happen, because he can't get water from Middleborough.
Yeah,
And he's got no place else really to do it.
right, we don't know.
And it does say in the urban renewal plan, we're gonna give him water. But we have to have a plan, and I think the way my plan is to fix the issues that we have right now. Then once we find out what they are and how much it's gonna cost us to do, we get that done, and we hire a company to start pumping water out. And at that point, we really have to decide is, are we gonna keep Middleborough on? Middleborough will provide water to the residents that are there and the businesses we currently have, and anyone else that gets contaminated.
That's right, that's what they
Any
said.
future contaminations, they said. We still have to file an agreement with them. I know the lawyer's trying to do that, draw it up. The language, because they want it open-ended. Whenever we want to get off their water, all right, just let them know, fine, 30 days, boom. We close the water tank, the water line from Middleborough, and then we start ours, which means we have to flush the water out, because we have two different types of water, the way they're treated, We have to flush it all out, put our water out there, and start providing it to the residents.
No, I was gonna say, what questions did Savory have? He's
I
got
don't
some.
know.
So it's,
Don't wanna leave him hanging out there.
You all set, Roger?
Yeah, and I mean, when we're sitting there talking about offering water to the other town, Plimpton, are we even spitballing the idea of talking with them? Do we have any contacts over there that we're talking to that says, yeah, we'd be, like an if-then, if Carver did accomplish this, we would go on Carver Water? Are we looking, actively looking and trying to ask those questions now so that this way, because then there would be a financial, then we can start countering in how much money we could pull in from them, which might help the decision makers in Carver help make that happen. Again, help approve budgets if they say, hey, we're going to spend X, but we're also going to be bringing in, if this works, we can bring in all these other towns or clients or homes in the area. Or have we got to that stage where we start thinking about who to contact over there to see if it's feasible? Because when you build out this infrastructure, you also want to factor that, the scalability of it, right?
so the urban renewal plan, we don't know how much water they're going to need there. The two proposals that are coming forward, there won't be a whole lot of water usage per day. I'm just gonna throw out the number, I know it's not right, but let's say 5,000 gallons a day, all right? So, and that's not a whole lot of water, but you're only talking a third, I think, of the lot for that property.
Total build-out would look a
So
little
total
different.
build-out, depending on what they have there for it, could be a lot different. If they say they put a hospital over there, all right, you're talking thousands and thousands of gallons a day they need to run a hospital.
Just a laboratory,
All right,
just a lab, medical facility.
Right, so, but we don't know that, and I want to make sure everyone knows that there's a lot of things in there that we don't know. And if you go through history, when this first came up, that there was a project in the works for that area, and it fell through. Then another project came up, Hillwood, and it fell through. And we thought it was all Hillwood, and it wasn't Hillwood, it was actually the developer. There were issues with the developer, and they didn't want to do it. So then, so now we have a new plan, and he subdivided the property more for it, and I support what he's doing. I mean, I want to get him water, and the only way to do that is through the process that I'm doing it, and hopefully it works.
Okay, one day, I think Bob said,
If I just could, Roger, real quick, I'd hold off on reaching out to other towns at this point. I mean, right now, we're not even pumping any water at all, and we don't know how much it's gonna cost us to, to pump clean water from the North Carver Water District plant. And I can tell you this one, the money it is gonna cost to get that plant up and running is gonna come from the taxpayers of Carver, because the funding from the North Carver Water District is not covering the cost right now. So, and again, I don't know what the number's gonna be, but whatever that number's gonna be, it's coming from the taxpayers, so I think we have a ways to go before we start worrying about Plimpton.
Right, and since you're managing other water systems in the area, like, is there any plan on scaling it so that this way water can be provided to other Carver residents, not just the north? Is that even a thought, or is that like down the road?
So I'll tell you this, I did send an email to Plimpton. I did reach out to them and say, hey, listen, when and if we do get our system up and running, we'll have somewhere around 40,000 gallons available, and that's if we run the system the way it was being run before. If we cut it back, the way I was thinking is that would open up even more water availability. Right now, Plimpton doesn't have anything on the books of what they're gonna do in that area yet. But I wanted to give them a heads up, hey, if this happens, there could be availability, so they could reach out to us and say, hey, yeah, we have a development that's coming in here, and they, instead of them getting their own water plant down there, it could be advantageous for them to hook it up to us. You have to understand, what I was told last year was in order for you to put a water line down the main street, it's $340 a foot. So think about that, $340 each foot to put a water line, and you're talking a mile, I mean, you're talking millions and millions of dollars to put a water line down. And then how far do you go? We did talk about that at not we, but it was talked about to bring the water line all the way down to Silver Street and cut it over for the development possibly there. But again, you've got to look at the weight of how much are we gonna get in return with that water line going all the way down there. And if you bring it all the way down there, why don't you bring it all the way down to the center of town here, and you can get rid of one water system and have the other one running. And that's if we're only allowed 100,000 gallons a day. So we have to be aware that you always need a reserve in it. I just want to say one other thing is the water tower from talks with George. I think he's on the right track of looking for a pilot agreement for the town and then seeking money from federal government to help pay for it. He has talked about hiring somebody to work it to help do the politic end of it, to try to get these grants. I did put money in the budget for a grant writer for the next fiscal year to help things like this, all right, that we need done to the plant. The water tower, if we do put one on, I think that's the other part of the plans for the RFP. I added that on the end. These companies that will do this work have their own engineers and everything to look at it, and we just want to find out where's the best place to put a water tower, and for them to help us to decide that. Is it on the coal property, or is it off the coal property, or should we look at other places for it? But I wanted to try to get as much as we could with it, and hopefully, like I said, when I get home tonight, I'll send that out.
So maybe just, so Roger, on the town side, there are no plans to expand the water system at all. The three entities are, all small scale, and they provide water to the facilities they have. And I go back to the town side, and if we're really talking about a water tower here, $1.5 million, right, which the developer would be looking for the town to subsidize, not the North Carver Water District. So the taxpayers of Carver would be subsidizing that $1.5 million water tower, and I think the town ought to have control of it. Quite honestly, if you're paying for it, you should control it. I don't see how he can build, I understand he's willing to build it, but he's looking for a tax break from the town, which, again, something we could entertain, but I would want to have more control.
So with that pilot program, we do pilot programs all the time for solar projects. All right, it's nothing new. And how it's formatted, depending on the way the prices go and everything, it could be more advantageous for the town, or it could be more advantageous for the company that owns the land. And if he's selling all the properties out, that payment in lieu of taxes will be only on the land that's not sold. It wouldn't be on the two lots that he has right now that he's putting in, because he sold them to two other entities. So he wouldn't get that. So that's up to the town. See, this is where it comes into some issues, is that the North Carver Water District, we provide the water, we send the bills out. Okay, that's our job. All right? We can't do anything with taxes. So if he wants to put a water tower for the benefit of the North Carver Water District, I'm all for it, I have no problem with it. All right, but if he's looking for a tax break for it, he's gotta go to the town for that. I can't help him with that.
But he's a property owner, so he pays taxes and so forth and so on. All right, listen, we could go on and on. Roger, are you satisfied? Because we're gonna let Savory jump in here.
Absolutely.
I'm satisfied. I
Okay,
did do a follow-up.
thanks. Go
I
ahead,
did do a
Savory.
follow-up
jump
for
in.
you, though, and I do have that number to give to Bob. So, Bob, maybe Joanna can give you my number, because I got something to add for you later.
I'll
All
give
right,
it.
that's
I'll give
fine.
it.
Actually, if you go on the North Carver Water District website, for the town, my phone number's there. It's accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for any resident
thank
that
you.
needs services.
I'm glad I know that.
It is what it is. I mean, I'm the chairman of the district. Guess what? We need somebody as a contact person, so it's there.
Okay.
All right, Bob, thank you.
Keeping track of how much
Sorry-
time you talk
sorry,
in these
Joanna.
meetings, so. Okay, Savory, what you got,
Savory,
man?
go
All
for
right,
it.
I pretty much understand Bob's plan because it really mirrors what Hillwood was kind of trying to do in, when that was in the development stages, where Hillwood would tie into the North Carver Water District, help fund it, help rebuild it, and then have it a multiple, it's for Route 44 and for all the commercial and residential customers that are served now by North Carver. So I get what it is that you're trying to do. My question for you, Glenn, is how do you read the urban renewal plan as it relates to Carver guaranteeing Route 44 water?
Yeah, the way I read it, and I believe it says it throughout the document, the urban renewal plan should provide water to the developer if available. And right now, like, there is no water available, so I don't see where you're obligated to provide water to them at all. I mean, we can't provide 1 gallon of clean water.
They are going to be a commercial entity. How do we as a town say that, yes, we can supply water to Shaw's, but we can't supply it to you?
Well, Shaw's an existing customer who's being supplied by Middleborough right now, so.
But through, I mean, does Middle, I mean, they're, when North Carver Water District is operating, Shaw's gets water from North Carver, correct? Or do they
Correct.
only get Middleborough?
Right, no.
No.
So the Middleborough Town Line, that's where they'll shut it off.
Right,
That's where they turn it on.
okay.
So if the North Carver Water District could pump clean water, right? And we're giving water to our existing customers, right? And the developer wanted to come in and we had water capacity, it would be available to them.
Let me just jump in. That was my question. Middleborough, when he had that meeting at the police station, Middleborough said they would only service those
Right.
residential customers that had contaminated water, which means if you only have no North Carver Water District and you go with Middleborough, they're stunting our commercial growth. Our economic development would be
So-
stunned,
so-
would be
right.
shut off.
So right now, right, they are providing water to the 131 customers.
But, if you go with them and say, okay, I got a 10-year contract with you guys, you're gonna be servicing us today and tomorrow. But they said tomorrow they would only service, not commercial, they were only servicing residential that had contaminated wells. That's what they said.
But they are providing water to it right now, we're relying on it.
They have no choice. They're not, but
No,
they
do
said.
have a choice.
Well, no, because they sell water to other people also.
I
And they
know
are
they do.
limited to 100,000 gallons, and they would have to go and maybe get another permit. That's another problem when they had heard how much water was gonna come out of Hillwood, had Hillwood been there and so forth. But they openly said that, Glenn, at that meeting that was at Bob's. And to me, that hasn't changed. I don't care if you make a 10-year contract with them or a long-term contract, they still said they're not going to service commercial. So
I'd ask for clarification on that, because they are providing us commercial.
that's today,
That is today.
not tomorrow.
Well, again.
That's what I'm calling it.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
I will tell you this, right, that I have had conversations with Middleborough, if they can get DEP to expand their permit, and I'll tell you now, it's a process, it's a big process, they are they are willing to consider expanding the water for Carver, right? But right now, they're limited by their DEP permit. And I know they want to have a long-term contract with Carver. I'll tell you now, we should have a long-term contract with Carver, because last time, they had to have an emergency order to turn on the water to Carver when our residents did not have water. They had no water, right? Middleborough had to have an emergency order to turn on the water, as opposed to having an agreement where, again, like Bob said, if North Carver Water District is working, great, we supply water to everybody. If it's not, then Middleborough can come over and turn on the spigot to help us out.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, so they said, all right, well,
I'm
do you feel that, this gray area of availability will end up with the town of Carver in court with Route 44 if we don't provide them water?
Well, you never know, right? Anybody can sue anybody for anybody, but I don't see where. And I know I've been requested to get an opinion from legal counsel about providing water, so it's more than just my opinion. But right now, we are not obligated to provide them with water. That's my opinion. And again, legal counsel will give us an opinion on that.
All right, when do you expect that? 'Cause I'm sure.
I would say by the end of this month.
Okay. Because I'm sure Route 44 believes that they have, that the URP tells them they have water, because it's available, it's under the ground, but it's available. And when this URP was done, the North Carver Water District was operating. The next thing, you said, Bob, that Middleborough agrees to expand their water only to customers that get contaminated in the future?
So I want to say this. When Middleborough said they would only do it to residential customers, I think, and I'm going to, with Glenn, I'm with him with this, is that what the existing customer base is, that what we have now. And they'll only expand it for contaminated use for people. And that's because they're limited of how much water they can pump out of the ground right now. But you also have to understand, Middleborough, they have some big developments coming up, all right, through MBTA and also a big warehouse
Yeah.
that they're putting in.
Yeah.
So you think about these other things that's going on in Middleborough that are gonna need water. And like I said, we need to keep a certain amount of water as a backup supply for us. Well, Middleborough's gotta do the same thing. So it'd be really great if we could, Middleborough would expand it to cover their, because then that would basically mean the North Carver Water District wouldn't need to be there. But I think that the North Carver Water District still does need to be there, okay? Because it does serve a purpose, because one of the good things that we have with our water, it's clean. I mean, it has high manganese and high iron, like we all do in all of Carver, but the plant takes that out. And what was done, all the results that came out prior to me shutting it off, saying that the water was potable, it was drinkable, it was clean, and there's no contamination. That's a big thing, no contamination. Now, who knows what's gonna happen? It's an aquifer and water moves
Yeah.
back and forth.
Okay, Glenn,
So I
go.
guess I do want to go, and I think Bob kind of keyed me on this. So you may want to go back and listen to Middleborough again, because you know what? Because they might talk about being expanding to residents. Because I can tell you now, so the North Carver Water District provides water to all the residents who wanted it. One resident hesitated. That resident has actually come on board since Middleborough has been providing us water. So they might have been talking about expansion, and they don't want to allow commercial expansion, but for residents who have contaminated
Yeah,
waters.
they're not gonna allow commercial.
Right, they may not, right, any expansion of the commercial, not existing commercial, but expansion. of
That's
commercial.
right, exactly.
I think it's expansion.
So let me just
Sure.
interject, I'm sorry. Now, Tom Bott just got a $90,000 grant for economic development. How are you gonna piece that in when you can't, a commercial, or what he thinks, or what the town thinks is good for commercial, how are you gonna expand that? Because Middleborough isn't gonna service it if you go with them.
Well, okay, again, I want to make this clear to you. I'm not proposing that the North Carver Water facility go away.
That's what I was listening to when I was listening to the select board meeting, that
No,
you had an
no.
article to dissolve the North Carver Water District.
Correct, yeah, you know what, I want to be clear for this. So it's the management of the North Carver Water District,
Oh.
not the actual facility. The facility needs to have the engineering study come in, they need, just like Bob's doing, they need the people come in there and tell us how much it costs to get that thing back up and running, right? And then, again, whatever cost that is, I'll tell you right now, that is the town of Carver cost, because they don't have the funds to do it. So it's the management of the facility,
So
not the
your
facility
article
itself.
says, tell me what your article says.
It's and to dissolve in the North Carver Water District, so the district itself. And that's the management of the facility. That's all it is. We're just switching the management. That's all it is.
I think that's more than that if you dissolve the district. The district is,
No, the district.
it has
is
its
what-
own act. Right.
That's what I mean.
And it has
it's
a diff on it where, and it has, there's a lot to think about that.
There's a lot to think about that. There's a lot of work for the lawyers to work it out, right? But it is the management of the system. That's 100% all it is the management of the system.
There are multiple commercial lots on the other side of Route 58. I think about Rovi's just south of 44 and the property behind the Noria gas station, which is all zoned commercial. Without water, we're not going to be able to bring businesses in there. So and Middleborough's not going to give us any more commercial water. How do we go about making those properties appetizing for a potential development without water?
Right, so you would look at bringing the North Carver Water District plant back online to see if you can provide water to them. And that's a financial analysis. That's one of the things that I think has maybe never been done. Has there actually been a financial analysis done to see if we can afford to bring this back? And I understand there was a gentleman who stood up at town meeting, right, and he held 2 checks up in his hand, I want to say for $700,000, and that was the money we were going to get for bringing it online, that never materialized. So somebody needs to, and again, it would be an engineering firm or a water professional who can do the analysis to tell us what it would cost to bring the plant online and what we'd expect from our customers. So, I mean, it's a financial analysis.
I think one other thing you have to keep in mind when you start talking about the financial analysis here is you've got a guy who's looking at 2 tenants, right? Is that what he's talking about?
Today, yes.
Okay, so he's got 2 tenants. The longer that we draw this out without doing something to provide them water, the less and less of a chance a deal's gonna get done.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're gonna go somewhere else. They're gonna go to Middleborough if they can supply water. They're gonna go somewhere else. I'm just saying that, you know, there's a time constraint in this that we have to keep in mind too, about going back and forth between who's managing it or whatever, but there's also a time constraint. These guys are talking about breaking ground in April.
Not 20.
Not next year, next year.
I thought he was starting road work this year.
You want to do something then.
You might be starting road work.
He's doing the
Yeah, well,
infrastructure.
you've got
The
to,
infrastructure, he's
yeah, you got to
grading.
put in the infrastructure and the water lines and everything else that goes along with that at the same time. He's only digging that up once. My point is, I don't know that he's going to go out and spend a whole bunch of money if we can't even tell him where he's getting it
He
from.
wants to know this year.
They took a vote of confidence. He was satisfied with that. I have.
But my point is, look at it from the other side for a moment, okay? If you're a tenant and you're going to spend X, whether this guy's leasing or owning or whatever, and you're going to spend X, you know, building your building and everything that goes along with it. Vote of confidence sounds great, but if I'm going to go out and spend $2, $3, $4 million on building a building and doing something with it, I don't know if I'm doing that with a vote of confidence, you know, at the rate we're going here.
All right, let's just, one thing. Along with that vote of confidence, I listened to your video, your meeting. Your men on each side of you were hesitant. They didn't want to put the horse before the cart, or I think that's how they said it. And you asked if they could get it up and running, vote to get it up and running by June 2025, correct? All right. They go, no, I don't want to do that. We need to get somebody in there to tell us how much it's going to cost. We don't know, they say. That's putting the horse before the cart. Isn't that how you say that?
The other way around.
Yeah,
Cart
cart before the horse. Okay, here we go. So, Bob got them at least to take a vote of confidence, because that's the same night that you were there, I believe, when George was there,
I don't think so. Yeah.
okay?
No, that was a different page.
George was happy, he's satisfied. The meeting went on, and then you talked about the RFP, you have a lawyer, and you have an RFP going for what you just said, distribution supervisor and so forth, and then the next one to come in and look at and see how much the plant was gonna cost and get it going.
Right.
And he was satisfied with that. But you gotta get it going, right? So,
I just think that.
Those
that-
people have to come in. That guy that doesn't have the RFP first, that company, they're the most important ones to come in first to see all it's going to take before the distribution supervisor. So do you think that's enough to hold them in abeyance?
No. If I'm a tenant,
That's-
and I've been in commercial real estate for 30 some odd years now.
Right.
If you're a tenant going in and you have this landowner who's saying, okay, I got this vote of confidence, I'm not dumping $4 million into building a building with a vote of confidence. I'll dump $4 million into it if you're under construction with a water tower and I see things happening, or some sort of contracts are done, things like that. I mean, I just think you're running the risk of pushing off whoever these two tenants are, that the longer you push them out and you can't give them a date, then they're going to look somewhere else. I think that's.
And the subsequent tenants who are going to look at the other parts of the property, and the subsequent tenants that look across the street and look at the Roby's property. I mean, if there's no water, no one's going to build.
Yeah, that's wrong with this whole thing. It's where.
It's a catch-22.
It's like, if this is what we want to do, we got to do something with it. It's been sitting out here for a while, from what I understand. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just telling you, as a real estate developer, you have to give some sort of definitive plans and assertions to people to say, all right, if you're going to invest this money, this is going to be here by whatever. By December, we'll have all the site work done. Then we'll pay for whatever that part is. We'll start with, so much will be done with this water plant that it'll be cleaned up and ready to go. I mean, I understand the guy doesn't need 50,000 gallons a day until 2026 or whatever it is.
Right, yeah.
But you've got to have something in place. It's just my opinion. And you have to have something in place that shows these people more than just a vote of confidence. It's got to have a little bit more of a good faith show of investment that we're going to have to do. And that's the only way. And Savory's right for all these other projects too. This stuff will sit there forever.
We're gonna spin this property now again for another 20 years.
Yeah,
without water.
Well, don't
We'll
take
be
too
sitting here
long, 'cause
3
it's
years
only
from now
good for
talking
20
about the
years.
same issue. And I mean, I understand that, the town's gonna probably have to front some money for it. Yeah, that's reality. That's what's gonna have to happen. But it's gotta start somewhere. It's like anything else, I'll call it in olden days now, when you went to go build a mall, you gave Macy's and Sears and these guys, you gave them land for $1. Because then you could build everything else and make money off of it from there. That's kind of the same thing that we're talking about here. You're going to have to invest some money into it that you're not going to recover in the first 2 years that whatever opens up. What you're betting on is that the rest of it's going to come afterwards. I mean, you're going to have to make some sacrifices in the front. I mean, that's how it's got to go. You got to get something there. You have to have some sort of activity for other people to go, okay, now there's 700,000 square feet built, and there's still 1.2 million out there to build. All right, well, this is already going. There's a road, there's infrastructure, there's all this stuff here. Now I want to go build a building. It's 18 months and I'm operating. It's not 3.5 years while I'm waiting for water to show up.
Yeah, relying on Middleborough, who said they're not going to add any more commercial clients, basically shuts the door on any kind of commercial growth
Absolutely.
in North
Right.
Carver.
Yeah, I mean, then they'll go after these guys.
Sure.
Anybody who's within 3 miles from us.
So before you guys interact here, I have something in my head. That act that was created in 2007, all I hear from us is the management of it. You can create an amendment to that act and change the management of it. That's not difficult. You can do that. So go do that. You want to manage this whole thing and interact with people from I don't know, you can change the language. People can be appointed if you want, because they've got select board. You want the select board to, like Middleborough, you want the select board, well, they're going to appoint somebody, right? They're going to just sit there and listen to all the woes. So just amend that act so that it can be this enterprise. It has its own enterprise fund, and today it has its own lawyer. I've been in this town for 52 years. We've been asking for lawyers for a long time, and the town never did it. The town said, oh, no, we're going to use KP law. Okay. That's a conflict, because you know why it's a conflict? Because right now, we just found out that KP Law also is the lawyer for Middleborough. And you're gonna sit there and have them, the one guy, KP Law comes in that night and asks the select board for their permission so that he can go sit on the board?
That was brought up at a meeting a couple of months ago, but it was just ignored.
Right, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
That's okay.
So, I believe what we're talking about, get it going. Yeah, get it going. Yes, the town has to spend some money. Now, if I was to show you that snippet, or you go back and watch Mr. Milanowski, he talks about that. He talks about the fact that all of this came together. And he talks about the North Carver Water District. He talks about that they're $4 million in debt, paying off this debt. He talks about the fact that they don't have enough customers. He talks about the fact that if they had this particular development going, it would be using water and might take another 2-3 years with all the build-out, that they would use this water and it would start bringing in more customers or whatever. He talks about everything tonight that you should have listened to, because he's talking sense. Yes, it's a risk, he says, but the town has to take that risk. And he felt that it was a win situation, not a lose situation. And all of those select board then, and Sarah Hewins was the only one still on the board today, had something to say, yes. They made a modification, very simple, like took the word local out and so forth and so on. But they voted. 4 people, not 5, one lady didn't want it. 4 of them said yes, a vote of confidence. So I don't care if the urban renewal said willingly or available. I don't know, that language was poor, because even Sarah said some of that language, that local school, that was poor. They shouldn't have used some of that language. So maybe somebody should have been a little more looking at the urban renewal plan when they used that word available.
Well, I think we have to look at how far we want to kick this can down the road. How much is it going to cost now when we have a choice of doing it or not? And how much is it going to cost in 10 years when we don't have a choice anymore and we have to do it? Because that's what's going to happen. Go ahead.
If I could. So one thing about, you talk about the developer and looking at it from the other side. I would talk to you from the other side. Simplify the process for the person coming in, right? How do you simplify the process? Again, you have if the town takes over the management of it, right? Then that developer is dealing with one entity, the town of Carver, right? For everything he needs to do, right? To get the plant back up in order, to the water tower, it's all under one structure. It's just a little bit more complicated when you bring in the district. You have 2 entities he has to deal with. So, again, look at the other side of it. Ask any developer, right? How many, if you can simplify the process, ask if that's what he's looking for. And, again, you said get it going. I think that's exactly why I think the town should take over the management of it. I think we can get this going faster than the district can. Again, the district's gonna have another election. I don't know which direction those board members are gonna vote. I don't know how they're gonna go about it. I think you're just better off having the town managing the whole project.
The town's had a hard time handling the water up front, right from the get-go for the last 20 years. You could have stepped in any time the town.
Can I address that? Because the town is not in charge of it. That's the
Well, that's the
point.
problem, so you had somebody.
Right, that is the
take care.
problem.
The town didn't even want to look over what was going on, and poor Mr. Belvin walked into a written-in thing and stepped in and said, guys, this place is a mess, we gotta fix it up. And no, I've listened to this for 6 months now since he's been in this job, and nobody's saying, Bob, these are good ideas. You know what, this is right, we gotta work on this. It makes, how do you know? You think those town clerks got time to start doing paperwork and new books and new audits and all that? Those town clerks don't have time. Let Bob find the right people or have the right people, or you find a better company to do it, so that we can get it going and say, okay, here we are, we got it going. In 2 years, we can change all the books over and the town can take care of it. But I think right now, Our town has a lot more problems going on in it than to worry about if the town's gonna say it's theirs or not, whether the town's people are gonna take care of the books or not. The town's people are having enough problems with other projects going on. There's 2 or 3 other big projects down the chute. I'm sorry, the clerks at the town hall and the tax accountant, they don't have time to take on this huge, big project when there's a company that knows how to and just do it all right at once. I'm sorry, that's how I feel.
As a matter of record, could you just identify
Oh,
yourself?
yeah.
This is Karen Lapham from Main Street.
Thank you,
Do you get that, Susan?
Lapham, Main Street.
Lapham.
thank you.
So I want to say, whether the North Carver Water District is running the show or the town side is running the show, they're going to have to hire a supervisor to oversee it. They're still going to have to hire a company to run the plan. So what we're talking here is the town has management, people here to work here, great, yeah, they do, they're full-time employees or whatever. But the North Carver Water District's going to have the same thing. We're going to have a supervisor overseeing the company that's running the plant. So this is what we're looking at here to keep it going. So, because the issue we had is we had a company that was in there and no one was seeing what these people were doing.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is one of my frustrations, is that Small Water Systems is the one taking care of the water here. The select board should have turned around when they saw my video and saw how bad that plant was. The first thing they should have done is said, get rid of Small Water Systems. How dare they ruin our plant here, okay? And they didn't. So this is where my frustration is coming out. I want to switch over to one last thing here, is that as a taxpayer who got a bill for 12 grand plus this year, last year was 11, now it's 12, all right? It's a lot. I know I'm going to be in retirement a few more years, all right? Am I going to pay for more and more and more every single year? Yeah, we are. We have to watch the budget. We have to watch what's going on. We haven't watched the budget with the North Carver Water District, ever. I think my budget that I presented covers us, all right, and lets the public know how much it's going to cost. It's almost $1 million. I'm not, and that's right now, and that includes the $230,000 in bond payments that we have to pay until 2049, all right, for the $7.5 million we built the plant for, all right. It also includes $260,000 so we can pay Middleborough, because Middleborough wasn't being paid on time for their water.
Oh,
So this is a problem that we have. We need to have an amount of money in there, so that's not gonna be an every year thing. That's a one lump sum, we pay it, boom, the residents pay, put it into our account. So that's kind of a revolving money every year that we'll be able to pay Middleborough for the water to cover us, because we know that we're gonna be on Middleborough water for at least another year. We have to be.
It's gonna be a lot longer than that.
Huh? Well,
It'll
no,
be longer than that,
not
man.
necessarily, because
We don't even have a feasibility study yet to tell us how much it's gonna
Okay.
cost to do all this stuff.
well, this is what I'm saying.
We're in
If we look
January.
at what we have now, all right, in February, say by June or July, we find out what's wrong with the system, okay, fine, here you go. It's gonna take us another month or two, because I was told they could probably take a month to get the place up and running. That's what I was told. Whatever repairs need to be done, that's as long as they have it. If the screens are bad, it's gonna take a year just to get screens in. A year, all right? And then it's gonna take 9 months for a water tower to be built. So, and there's permitting that has to go through the town, the
So
state.
you're already past the spring of '26 when this guy's talking about that he wants to
Exactly, and
open.
that's why we have to get on this. I mean,
I don't disagree with that. We need the feasibility
Yeah.
study to get it done and get it over with,
And
because
if we go to
Yeah.
town meeting with the article that Glenn is presenting, then, and it passes, then we're at April 8th, then we have a 90-day cooling off period, or appeal period.
Yeah, appeal.
That brings us to the middle of July, before anything can happen then. So we've lost another 6 months from today, before anything would start, based on the town meeting vote.
I would disagree, because I would think the North Carver Water District would continue to move forward. So there's no reason to
we
pause
would have
anything.
to, we would have to
Right.
do our due diligence, all right, to continue on what we're doing and to make sure that we have the funds to do it. I mean, there's not only that bylaw, but the budget alone. People are gonna look at that and they're gonna critique that budget, and I want them to. That's what they're supposed to do, is
Would
to
there-
turn around.
Would there be any conflict of interest if the North Carver Water District right now was to contract with Fuss and O'Neill? to be the engineer, if
But we-
that's what the town
but
wants to do.
we don't need that. We don't need the engineering firm to come in and look at the plan. That's why we're hiring a company to do that for us. They do this.
All right, but
They have their own
that's,
engineers.
that seems to go against what you're saying, of having our own town-hired engineers.
Correct.
Look at that.
I bring in Fuss and O'Neill. So, I mean, just so you know, Fuss and O'Neill's even acquired the firm that did the initial study for George McLaughlin.
All right, but you really can't start with Fuss and O'Neill doing anything until after town meeting, correct?
I could if I get permission from the North Carver Water District. If they gave me permission tomorrow, I'd hire them tomorrow.
Can we just say there was a conflict with them?
Well, that's what I'm just wondering. I mean, is there a way as Jim was saying, time is of the essence here because we've
Yeah,
got,
what's the harm of letting the Carver Water District go out and hire somebody to do this feasibility study? If it takes what, how many months, give or
I'll put
take?
$10 towards it, for God's sakes. You know, we gotta move forward.
Just the people that you talk to do this, 2 months?
Oh,
Talking to you.
When I had them come down and look at the site, all right, I had asked the question, I says, all right, so how long would it take you guys to get this up and running? And they-
I'm asking about a feasibility study that's not only gonna tell you how long it takes to get it up and running, but what it's gonna cost. Somebody's gonna be able to do that for you. You got
well,
an
that's why
engineering
I've got a
firm.
company coming in with the next RFP to do that.
I understand that, but what's the time frame that you got on these guys to do this?
Okay?
In your
They
RFP,
have to do it at least
what's
3 months.
What's the end?
Within
Okay,
3
so it's
months.
3 months. What do you figure, like a February 1st start date?
No, it would be after that because you have to post it for 2 weeks in the newspaper and then you put it to Combis, the place. And we don't have the access to do that right now. I think I have to get access for that so we can do our own RFPs. But
So you're into, so let's even say March 1st, then you got March, April, and May before you're gonna have somebody, you got,
3
well,
months.
first of all, you gotta pick somebody, so that's even before you get started. He's gonna get started in March, actually, to start picking somebody. That's gonna take you months. So now you're talking about really starting in April. So April, May, and June, before they come back with something that tells you, this is what we gotta do, here's how much it's gonna cost, and here's basically how much it's gonna cost to operate on an annual basis. You don't even have to worry about the revenue section yet. I mean, that's just, you gotta figure, that's something that Carver's gonna have to consider eating out of the box until you get, because nobody's gonna pay you anything until they're there and they sell a widget. I mean, that's how it's gonna be.
right.
You know, you'll get the developer to give us some money for the water tower or whatever, and they're, you know, the development agreement will have them, but as far as a usage and a number that comes out of it, you could build 1 million square feet, but until somebody, you know, opens up and sells something, they're not using any water.
Is the water district being subsidized by the town right now?
Oh, yeah. We have no money coming in except for the people that pay their water bills, but that money's going right to Middleborough. And
Okay.
you have to understand is that the way the fee structure for our water is we charge more to Middleborough than Middleborough charges for water right now.
Okay.
All right, but we also have to understand is that we still have bills to pay, no matter what. With it even being shut, we still have electric bills, propane bills, telephone bills, security bills. I'm tomorrow morning, the garage door, somebody backed into the garage door and bent it. And it's been like that for months and months and months. Tomorrow it's getting fixed. All right, I gotta be there 8 o'clock in the morning and having the guy make sure it gets fixed the right way. So now the heat isn't going out the door because there's a gap this big. Well, who broke it? The only people running it was small water systems. They're the same company that's running the water systems now, people.
I think I made a few good statements in my letter here.
But I
Whoa.
appreciate you guys very much for letting us come in here and talk. I do. And Glenn, I appreciate what you're doing too. I may not agree with it, but I understand where you're coming at, so.
Yeah, I
thank
want to
you.
tell you right now, the North Carver Water District and the commissioners put in a ton of work. I go to most of Bob's meetings, if not. These guys are working on Saturdays, they're working at night. Again, I go back to, is that even sustainable? You know, for volunteers to be doing that kind of stuff. Who was the gentleman who was running it before? The day I started working Carver, he told me he was resigning because he was working 20, 25
Well,
hours a
see,
week.
let me interrupt you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't need, we can change the fact that we don't have voting people. We have people that work, that you hire by the town. And you hire them. But you're doing all the stuff independently the way Bob is talking about. That's what I'm saying, you know? So you don't need to have an April election and have a bunch of people who really are just saying, oh yeah, I think this will be fun, and they don't have a real good understanding of what's going on. I mean, the prior board, good example. It just didn't work out. And they weren't water commissioners, but yet they didn't go forward. I mean, I have to say, kudos to Bob. He's having a lot of issues with these 2N men. I watched those videos. He's having trouble with these guys. They're not always agreeing with him. He's moving it, but he does a lot on his own. When he went the first time and took those videos and everything, I don't know if you watched that very first meeting that he had. You should watch it.
The town should be ashamed of themselves. It's shameful that there was nobody that just, I don't know, I have a boss, you have a boss, we all have a boss, that nobody just peeks in once a month or once a year and says, hey, what's up? We know them.
No, can I just-
He keeps referring to the town. The town is not running it.
All right.
How many times-
Can we just cut to the chase here for a second? How do we release the money to get started on this feasibility study? Because that's what's hinging on everything that we're talking about here. That's what's gonna drive the bus. Hiring somebody to look at all of this, to give us the basics on, like we just talked about. It's gonna cost this to get the thing up and running. It's gonna cost this to operate it after going forward, whatever the town's gonna cost for billing or whatever that's out there. And then you gotta go back to the developer and ask him for a piece of what the initial cost is gonna be for the water tower and everything else. But we're all just gonna sit here and spin our wheels until we have somebody that gives us, who knows about this stuff. You know, that's why you hire engineers, and that's why you do it, so they give you an idea of what it is, and frankly, mark it up by like 25%.
Do you have the money from this year's budget to
Yes.
pay? See, he's got the
We have
money.
So-
200,000.
I mean, in my opinion, have at it, man. I mean, I'll vote for that. If you're gonna go out to 3 people with an RFP that are reputable firms and get somebody to come back and say they're gonna do all of that for us. So at the end of whatever, 2 months, he comes back and he or she comes back and says, here's what it costs to build it, here's what it costs to run it, and here's whatever else is gonna go along with it. And then it's up to people like us to go, okay, well, the developer's gonna develop 1.2 million square feet of 2 million. So the initial investment, he's gotta come up with whatever, 1.5 million. I'm just making numbers up. You get where I'm going.
He's got the money. Change your direction. He's got the money.
I just said, all right, then.
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at this as an investment in Carver's
Yeah,
future.
and this is
And,
chump change
you
by
bring-
compared to
you bring
everything
up the
else. Getting the
point-
study done is nothing.
You bring up the point that, you said that it shouldn't be run by a group of volunteers. The select board are elected, but they're in effect volunteers. And,
But they have professional staff that work for them. And
Yes,
you just want
to a
so
certain extent.
we have small water systems who works for the town, runs our 3 systems, right?
Right.
That small water systems also ran the North Carver Water District. I would say, I'll tell you
Into
the
the ground.
difference being that small water systems working for the town answers to a professional. Where small water systems work for the North Carver Water District did not have that professional. Somebody who says, do this, don't do this. This can wait till next year. Do this in 6 months. Do this today. That, again, that's what I think,
And
that's
that
a
was-
component that you have to have.
that came from the direction of the select board.
Oh, yes, your guy that gave us.
I'm sorry, was
The-
the professional staff?
No, the direction that small water was given came from the select board for the.
But see, that's,
No,
to
professional
me,
staff.
that stuff's down the line. We're talking about stuff that's
Right, let's get-
months away from what we're talking about. We're talking about getting an idea of what it's gonna cost to do all this at a time frame. Right now, I don't really give a damn who runs it. We gotta figure the part out that goes, this is what it costs. And this is what we have to talk about with the developer and say, okay, out of the box, you're building this, you gotta come up with 40% of the infrastructure costs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like Roger said, Roger Nobley said, hire the consultant, get all those people up and running, and then when you're confident, you start migrating.
because
that-
also, if you're the developer, 'cause I can't tell you how many times I've done this in the same planning boards and everything else. All I want's a number and a time. And I go back and figure out, if the town's asking me for $2 million to help put in a water system, I go back and run my pro forma and I see if it works.
Right.
I mean, but the guy's gonna be waffling around if we can't give him some sort of idea on,
Well, he's not going to have the 2 million if his tenants leave.
Yeah,
right.
and, well, that's the
Right,
other part of this that
exactly.
we're not even considering, is that, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, he's got whoever that wants to build 1 million square feet of warehouse space. Well, they've got customers that they're applying to that want stuff on the Cape, and they can't get it there because they can't build anything there. And the longer that we just sit here, it's gonna go somewhere.
Right. It wouldn't-
right.
Guys, I'm sorry. I gotta drop off. This is.
Okay, Roger, thank you.
I've got to drop.
I'm not riveting
Thanks,
enough
guys.
for you to stay?
Love it,
Anyway,
but,
that's my
you know, I
2
gotta
cents.
go.
I've had enough of talking about
Thank
it,
you very
too.
much, Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
Take care,
Thanks.
Thanks for your
Ladies and
input.
gentlemen, take care.
I mean, that's my 2 cents, is we should just pull the trigger, do the feasibility study, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, do
How
something.
much does that cost
He doesn't know yet.
for the RP? Nobody's even giving me an idea. I'll ask around and I'll see what I can find out.
I can probably give you an estimate, probably about 150,000, if that. It'd probably be less than that, but I'm thinking at least 100.
You have money for that today?
We have 200,000 that we put in as an engineering study that was in our budget, so.
I'm just saying
We have
that's-
that availability to do that, and like I said, it's just the time frame of doing it legally, of putting out RFP, because it's a lot of money that we're putting out. So it's just the way it has to be done. So
I just think we start there and we get it rolling, because the longer we sit here and futz around with it, it'll go away. The same thing, like, you know, I don't know the whole thing about Hillwood, but, you know, the economy changed. It's one of those things, if you don't strike while the iron's hot, there's so many things that can happen, and the longer we sit around and do this, somebody will go to Middleborough, or they'll go wherever.
How long a contract are we thinking about with Middleborough for water?
I want to say they might have even, was it a 50-year? I mean, they really wanted to go out. And again, so they're not in this situation where they're asking DEP if they can turn on the valve. You know, they want to be able to do it if we need help.
Okay, so it's an if, not
It's an
mandatory.
if,
It's
correct.
All right, they're not
The North
relying
Carver-
on this.
Right, if the North Carver Water District facility gets up and, you know, running again, they shut off the water.
Do you feel
Again.
that getting the facility up and running again is a priority?
Oh, yes, I agree with James. I honestly, right now, I know we need a distribution system operator, but Middleborough is actually filling that gap for us, right? I prefer if we had the engineering study done already, and we know how much money it's gonna cost us.
We agree, yes, yeah, we agree.
So let's do it.
Do it,
Now,
do
With the
it,
band on the third row. I
do
it.
it. Get back on that track.
can we
get on.
present something to the town meeting next year? To spend the money, to fix it, to get it up and running, as an investment? I mean, how do we go about, you know, you've said it's on the taxpayers' back. How do we convince them that this is a good thing for Carver?
Again, I think you have to have that financial, you know, you're gonna have a cost analysis to how much to bring it back up and running, right? Somehow you have to look at the financial analysis to see how much a commercial building brings in. And I'll tell you, to the cost of the town, I would believe that a commercial building has a better benefit than a residential building.
Oh,
There's no question about it.
no
Exactly,
question,
so you really want to see what kind of commercial you could bring into the town. And somewhere, again, right now, we are still losing money, right? We're not making enough money to even pay for it. So we could be losing money for years, and there might be a break-even point where you say, you know, the North Carver Water District has to operate for 10 years before it's in the black. I don't know what the number is, and I won't know until I know how much it costs to bring that plant back up in line and running.
Right, but you're also not going to know either, because having the plant up and running could bring in more commercial development on other properties up there that we don't even think about yet.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah, but
Absolutely.
you'll have an idea of, like, every commercial or every gallon of water brings in so much money, right? So you can do an analysis to how many square feet of commercial you need until you're at a break-even point. I mean, at that point, you'll know how much the plant costs you to run, right?
Yes,
That's the
I
other
no, I
side of the
understand.
equation.
I understand.
The other side of the equation you have to figure out. And I don't think that's ever been done.
No,
Right, but I mean, we need to have the plan up and running. That's the carrot we have to dangle in front of future development for commercial in that area. I mean, there's a lot of land up there, you know, both sides of the street, that is ripe for commercial development, and that's gonna bring in tax dollars that we desperately need without bringing in school children,
Trust me, Ray, I'm the town administrator.
I know.
Right?
I know you're not. I know
Trust me,
you're not.
yeah. And again, I want to go back to this, right? I don't want to disparage them, I don't. These guys have been doing a great job, and they're working a lot of hours out there. I think you can run it more smoothly, if it's just the town running it. I think it's better for the developers, I think it's better for us, I think it's better for the taxpayers.
I think the decision to do that is months from now to even talk about it.
Well, it is, I would agree with you.
I'm just saying, that's talk about putting the cart before the horse. The first thing we need is the feasibility study to see what it's gonna cost. Because then that's when we get into the financial analysis of, developer's got X that he can put out there, which means Y in revenue, which also means Z in what is his upfront check gonna have to look like to put into this. So then we really know what the town's gonna have to put out after the fact.
James, believe me, I couldn't agree more. When I came on board, right, we put in a grant to get the $40,000. That was the estimate that we had for the engineering study. I heard a figure from Bob tonight, a little bit more. So we had an estimate for $40,000. The town put in a grant because there was no North Carver Water District at that point, right? Everybody had resigned.
Yeah.
Bob was elected, he was the only one. He didn't have a quorum to run a meeting, right? So we didn't get the grant. I tried to express to Bob, he should, even before we got the grant, we should move forward with the engineering study because we need to know that number. It's the first step. So, right now, we need to get that done. That's what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
All right, well, getting back to what we are kind of responsible for, how do we somehow appease George? How do we make Route 44 feel as though they have confidence that they're going to get the water that they need? How do we do that?
Good question.
How do we make George
Good question.
tell his potential tenants
Bob, you got it.
everything's going to be okay?
One, after we made our decision on the two RFPs, he was very happy when I called him that we did that. I did want a time frame of when we can get this all done and up and running again. The other members didn't want to, and that's fine. And I just want to say, it's just me and Eric. Those are the only two people that are working for the district, doing stuff. That's it. All right, so it's two people, me and him. All right, and we have a 3-member board. That is what it is.
Is that
What?
always supposed to be 3 or 4? How many?
It's always 3.
Always 3.
Supposed to be 3. All right, so, but that being said, I think once we start spending the money for the distribution operator and this other inspection, evaluation, and fix all the emergency stuff that needs to be done, like protect the screens, hopefully they're not bad now, but they'll let us know everything that's wrong with the plant, and we'll work on that. But once that's all done and they get it, and I added prepping for reconditioning, because I was told at that meeting that the plant needs to be recommissioned, which is a process. So, and that's going through DEP and going through the whole thing to make sure it's working appropriately. But the new company that comes in, we will have to hire another company to come in to run the plant. So another RFP will be put out to run the plant. That won't be until after we get all the information from these other two, and we have a supervisor on board to help us along that way.
But if I, as the developer, what I'd want to know is what does my piece look like? And that's what this feasibility study will tell you.
Yeah.
That this is going to be my upfront cost, and then he backs into his numbers. That's right, keep going back to that. It's a financial analysis just like anything else. He's got a plug number in there in his whole development, which is, let's just say $1 million, for lack of a better term. And if we come back and tell him that it's, 2.5, might stop him in his tracks, and he might be like, there's no development here. So you just got to keep that in mind. You can do stuff, we can do, there's ways we can get around with taxes and all that kind of stuff, but he's got to have an idea of what it's going to cost to get into it, and it's not something that that we'll be able to change drastically either, because his sale or his rent number is, once he signs that,
He's got to have something to sell.
yeah, and when he signs his intent letter with whoever it is, that's not going to change.
Right.
Because that guy's just going to sign it and say, all right, if he's leasing it, $12 a foot gross. That's it. That's all I'm paying. I don't really care what happens on your end. I'm paying you $12 a foot gross, and I get to build 700,000 feet.
Yeah.
And, you can't go back to them if we come back to them and say, well, I know I told you it was $1 million that we needed, well, now we need $1.5 million. And then he can't say, well, I need 500,000 more. Now I gotta go back and tell this guy that now it's 1750, because the guy's gonna laugh and be like, no way.
See,
We signed the deal for $12. So,
I have
anyway,
one-
we've beaten this to
I have
death.
one other minor, little question, and it's primarily to you, Bob. You mentioned earlier, when you first started speaking, that Middleborough did the repairs, or did a lot of the repairs because they had the equipment.
Yes.
Is there, I'm assuming there's specialized equipment that is...
They have a huge water system. They know water inside out. They have one of their best employees in there. I sent emails back and forth to him. He's awesome. And his guys has the utmost confidence in everyone that works with his water department, that they do things right the first time and they don't have to repair it. So having them come in and take care of our emergency repairs, I think will be beneficial, because they're close by, they have their emergency people, and do that. If we don't have them, that means we have to hire a separate company to come in, because I don't think the town has the capabilities of tying in if there's a water main break, that they have to cut it out and put a new piece in. Do they have the equipment to do that?
Probably not.
Probably not, all right? And therefore, a small water system, oh yeah, that's great. You got a 2, 3, 4, 5-inch line, whatever it is, going out. I mean, we're talking 10, 12-inch lines.
We're not at the point of talking about any of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's my opinion, but that stuff, that's,
But still, it goes to the cost of what is, one versus the other, and what it's going to eventually cost the taxpayers if we have to go out and
which is
purchase.
part of what this feasibility study should tell us.
I understand.
The guy will give you a number and
I
he'll
wanted to
say,
find out
yeah,
a little
he's
bit
gonna
more
say
about
something
what
like,
the equipment was.
whatever, it's $200,000 a year to fix it.
Okay.
So,
Well, you have to have emergency. And in your case, when the guy comes in and analyzes the costs, he's gonna have to have a component
He-
called emergency.
he will. He'll have a contingency part
Right.
that goes in there for maintenance, for
Right, okay.
emergency repairs. He'll have something that'll go
So
in
with
there.
all your confidence, hire Middleborough, go negotiate with Middleborough when this happens, for the emergency work. Whether it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, can they support all that? Go hire them up. Hiring contracts, that's what they're gonna have to do. I don't agree with this townsfolks thing, and I have a hard time with elected officials, even though I am one. But there are all kinds of people who have attitudes, and some people...
Those damn people.
Well, some people have a problem, and they get onto a committee because they just want to make trouble. We had that last
Oh,
time.
I thought you were looking at me.
No, I'm looking at you because that's my attitude. But I'm not blaming the last group that was on there, but they made a mess.
Yeah, I don't want to blame anybody either.
Okay.
You know,
It was
I
a
don't even-
mess.
Right? I want to move forward.
I do.
Yeah.
And I
We
think
do
what I think is the
too.
best
We
idea.
do too.
Yeah. I think
So
the
our
best idea is to move
townspeople,
forward.
our taxpayers have to know. And I'm going to tell you one thing that I want to do, and I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to go visit, what's her name, Karen Perval?
Yeah.
We had, and I think I sent it to you, a DOR study audit from 2014 to when it began. It revealed so much, it was unbelievable. It also revealed that our treasurer or finance people did not go back to the federal government and collect some money off of some bonds or something like that. And they were told, by the finance director then, did you do that? And they go, no. Well, you better start doing it. And they filed for it. And it was thousands of dollars, thousands. I believe today that if this Department of Revenue came in and did an audit from current to 2014, that's as far as you have to go, guys. And you take this whole thing, this is a picture, right? It's a picture. The DOR is going to make a recommendation of all the do's and don't do's and what you did and what you didn't do, and make recommendations. Along with what Jim says, I agree. I think in addition to that, we need to have that audit.
I think if you go back and read that 2014 report, the DOR recommends that the town take over the finances.
Well, I'll go back and read it.
Yeah,
I'll
go back and read it. And I think that's what it says.
I think we've talked about this enough
Yeah.
for this evening. We have other things to finish up here too. I'm not trying to cut anybody off, but I think we've,
Thank you.
Well, we have some marching orders, right? You'll stay tuned with us, and you.
Yeah.
You submitted that article, I'm not telling you to take it off, but I thought your article was to dissolve the North Carver Water District.
Well, that's the terminology they use. That's all. And trust me, it is the man, we're not pulling up any pipes, we're not removing any meters, all the infrastructure stays.
Okay.
It's literally just the
Okay.
management.
So, okay, so stay tuned with us, but I'm gonna go upstairs or do you have to, does that have a recommendation from the Water Commissioner too? The DOR audit? I don't know, I'll have to
No, I
find out.
don't believe so.
Okay, I have to be
how
just.
do we get this guy started with taking money and doing his RFP and running with it and getting somebody to do it?
Get him what?
How do we get running with, bidding this out to 3 people to do the study and get it going?
Well, he's already put out the RFP.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna go off
Yeah.
probably next week because it
But
didn't get put out.
all I'm asking is, do you need anybody else other than actually the language that
So
you have to
to
put
get it
together for
going.
that? But you don't need anybody else's approval to do this. You just need
No.
to tighten up the language and do it.
No, he's got he has a
We've already
lawyer.
agreed to it, we gotta put the dates on, and that was part of the things with the town, is that it's gotta be filed in certain orders and put out there with the dates, so the dates have to be put into this new one.
Well, let's just get it done.
So, that falls on me, and I apologize, so.
So the time frame is, getting it out is a week. The response back, when you're asking them to send everything back by?
I gotta look it up.
Ballpark it a month.
It's beginning of February, if I'm.
Yeah, call it March 1st.
Yeah.
Um,
So by March 1st, you'll have your bids back.
Okay.
And they probably got, 3 months to do the study. So you're into,
3 months for the study.
I'm just guessing.
Well, no, that sounds good to
Yeah.
me.
So now you're into June, so you're looking at July
Okay.
by the time you're really getting, and let's not kid ourselves.
So,
July 1st comes around,
So-
you're not having any crazy meeting that somebody's gonna look at a budget that's gonna be millions of dollars when people are all over the place for the
but
summer.
we have to go to town meeting in April.
The final day is February 10th.
Okay.
First day to commence contract would be February 10th. That's when we contract for the operator, distributor, operator, and supervisor position. The next one will probably be 2 weeks after that.
So that's the operator. That's different than the,
Yeah, I'm asking
That's-
the study part of
The
it.
study part, that'll be 2 weeks after, because I'm gonna get it in. when I
So
go home
February
tonight.
10th, so now you're at
24th,
the
end of
24th of February for
End of
that to
February.
come back.
Right.
And that's just gonna be your 3 guys bidding on it, then you're gonna pick somebody. So, yeah, we are at March 1st, give or take, to release somebody to let them go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's gonna be a couple of, so there's no way that's gonna hit April's town meeting.
No,
Not even close.
I don't know.
Can we do a special town meeting?
They can, it costs money though.
cost money.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get people at a regular town.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
tough
boy,
to get a
that's,
quorum.
that's tough. Yeah, it has to be really special.
If it takes us another year to do this,
We won't have this project, he'll
No.
be gone.
I'm not kidding you, it'll be gone.
No, yeah. Because Middleborough, and I remember they said they have to supply water to another big company coming in. You're right, Bob, wasn't it? Well, I don't know the name of the company, but there was another company coming in and they were gearing up. They were,
I don't know the details of, I will tell you, I know they just had a TIF rejected by the state.
oh, really?
Yeah, a tax incentive financing agreement with a large developer, I can't remember the size of the bill. And one of the things that was referenced in the newspaper article was that the town of Middleborough rejected the MBTA zoning, so the state was pushing back.
Yes, that was brought up before. Somebody else was talking about that in one of these meetings that we had,
Oh, the MBTA?
Yeah.
where they had a bill, yeah, and it was, who was it, Wellesley rejected, they didn't do it either, there's a couple of towns.
Milton.
Milton, yeah, there was a couple of towns that said that they
Yeah,
just
there's a
weren't
lot
I
gonna
think
do
it's up
it.
to 32.
Huh?
I think it's up to 32
There's a
towns
lot
that
of
have
towns.
rejected.
Yeah, I just
So
did,
if that's the development you're talking about, then I don't know what their plans are right now. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the details of it. I just saw
Who's,
the newspaper article.
Who's going to be keeping George up to speed on everything that's happening? Whose role is that now? To,
Well,
kind
Right
of,
now, he's dealing with the North Carver Water
All right,
District. I know he
he's
comes to the
dealing with you.
meetings. I mean, I see him.
You
Actually,
sit,
I
you
see
sit
him.
at those meetings.
Yeah, I
don't
see
you?
him at
Okay.
the North Carver Water District
Yeah.
meetings. Yeah,
one of those
because
meetings.
he's a cog in
One
this,
of the
there's no question
water
about it.
Yeah.
He's a part
One
of
of the
making this
water
happen.
meetings,
When are they?
yeah.
They're on Wednesdays at 5.
Like, once, the
So the
first
next one is next
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
they're not like regular scheduled
Right.
meetings. They're.
All right, so are they put on the calendar online?
Oh, yeah.
So if I just look there? All right.
Yeah.
Happy hour.
Go to the North Carver,
Cornerstones.
There's happy hour?
North
If
Carver.
you told me that, I would have been going months ago.
I want to let you know is that George and I talk, whenever there's an issue or whatnot going up, we talk about that. He's talked to me about certain things, and there's some things I'm like, I don't want to hear anything about this pilot agreement, because it doesn't affect me, all right? Some of the other things that he wants to do, he tells me after the fact, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I'm like,
Can you kind of make sure that Joanna's in the loop?
usually when I talk to him, I talk to
All
her.
right.
Yeah, we're
Thank
pretty
you.
much,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, that we kind of know what's going on. I don't want us to take over the the line of communication, but I think we should be.
My
part of it.
feeling is the North Carver Water District has just as much as a role in the development of the North Carver area than you guys do.
Maybe
All right?
more.
Yeah, I would say
No,
more.
I mean, you.
We're responsible for this
well,
project.
But I
If you
mean,
don't have water, we have
Yeah.
nothing to do.
you guys need to keep us on the right track. So
Okay.
doing this meeting is good, keeping us on the right track to make sure we're doing our job the right way.
Yeah.
And if we need to change how we do it, then we need to change how we do it.
Okay.
But I take George's comments, whatever he says to me, I said, okay, fine, we'll see what we can do about that. Some
Okay.
things I just told him, no, we're not gonna do it.
All right.
There's certain things that I personally don't think that we should be doing.
Okay.
All right,
That's
but-
fine.
Well, if you have a meeting next Wednesday, I'll try and go. I won't guarantee you that I can
No, it's
go, but
fine.
I'll try and go.
All right, thank you, I appreciate
So,
it.
so what happens April when we have elections, and what happens to this North Carver Water
So,
District?
the way this, if town meeting votes to dissolve the North Carver Water District, okay, it's still gonna go to the state legislature to get approved, okay? There's also a DEP aspect of this too, and I don't know if the town has went to DEP yet and talked to them, says, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing, all right? What do you guys need to do about this? All right, so I'm not sure, I'm just focusing on what we're doing.
I
how
don't think
we're
they
doing
would
it.
like that.
But
They wouldn't like that.
But if it gets approved, it goes to the state approves it, great, no problem, okay? There'll be a time frame of when our positions as North Carver Water Districts will end. There has to be a date on that to say, okay, if this gets approved, a year from now, the town will start taking it over. I'm gonna stay in no matter what to the end, all right, whether it is or it isn't. I'm staying in for my 3-year term here to make sure.
You
everything that
were
I do-
elected, but those other two people are
Correct.
appointed.
The other two.
That's
they-
every year?
No, so, no, what will happen in the next election, one will have a 1-year term, and the other one will have a 3-year term, all right?
But they might
So-
not want to run.
Well, other people will have to run for office.
Well, have
No
they
matter
talked
what.
about
Well,
it?
we had 3 other people that were interested in being part of the district.
Okay.
They wanted to, and they were passed over by these other 2 people. And that's where we come into politics of it, and I don't want to get involved in the politics of it now.
All right.
Because we talked
We
enough
gotta move
about
on.
this, and I want to go
That's
home.
something for him to, yeah, me too, I'm starving.
Thank you.
All right.
All right,
We need to have snacks next time for.
yeah, I know it. All right, let's look at the next meeting, and then we'll adjourn. Forget the minutes, we'll do that another
I have
time.
Giorgio's on speed dial, but
All right, let's look at the adjournment. I don't have a calendar with me. Oh, wait a minute.
Glenn, is there anything
have one
else
on
you'd
my
like to
phone.
add, or?
Oh, yeah,
No, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, I think we talked about it enough.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you came,
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
for-
yeah, yeah.
and I want you to
Yes,
stay
thank
aboard
you.
with us.
And again, I want to, let's say, I'm glad that, we clarified, again, we're not looking to get rid of the North Carolina Water District and You know, I should have made that clear. It is truly just the management of it. That's all.
All right, but we got to work towards making it viable, and, because we need that for,
I think we both have that goal,
That whole-
actually, Savory.
that whole
I really
area,
do.
yeah.
I think we both have that goal.
okay, good.
I think so.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, all right. Do you want to pick a date for the next meeting? That's what you want to do?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to postpone everything else till the next meeting?
Yes,
Everything
yeah,
else on the
yeah,
agenda,
yeah.
All right, so in February, you're looking at the 11th is the second Tuesday.
Oh, my stupid phone here. I don't have a, what about you, Savory? You're the
I'm fine.
traveler.
I'll be back on the 6th.
Okay.
He's
I can do
got
the
big Valentine's Day plans, you can't.
So
be out of town.
February, which is the date again, please?
The 11th.
February the 11th, okay.
Again at 6:30?
Yes, please, 6:30, yeah.
All right, 2/11.
And then what we should probably do, if we have a lot of other things to do, we should do all this other stuff first.
Yeah.
We should approve all the minutes and do all that stuff and get that out
Well,
of the
I was
way.
at the water, what do you call the earth removal group, that's what they do, and I can understand why. Because they get into these hearings and you'll never get any of that stuff.
All right, so we'll just hold on to all this stuff.
Yeah, just
All
hold on.
right, so
to
we're
it.
gonna, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn. What time is it,
My
please?
stomach is the fourth one to.
It's 8, let's call it 8:30.